just had the biggest victory in Michigan. They said, sir, it's going to be hard. Well, we won it twice. We actually won it 3 times. You want to really know that? There's my friend, Blacks for Trump. I like that guy. He follows me. He follows me. We love you. Your whole group has been so supportive over the years. I want to thank you. Everyone thinks I pay you a fortune. I don't know. I don't even know who the hell he is. I just like him. And he's going around with AOC +3. You know, the +3 follower. They hang on for little bits. They hang on for nuggets. And they get crowds. They say, our crowds are so much bigger than their crowds. They tried to cheat on this election, but we made it too big to rig. Remember? Too big to rig. They tried. And that's why we got, despite the fake polls, you know, they do these polls where they interview far more Democrats than Republicans. I saw them over the last few days, and I had them checked out. They interview far more Democrats for the polls. They interview Democrats by big numbers and then Republicans by small. They say, Trump only has a 44% approval rating. Well, it's actually not bad. And also, we cannot allow a handful of communist, radical left judges to obstruct the enforcement of our laws and assume the duties that belong solely to the President of the United States. But I know much more than he does about interest rates, believe me. Core inflation has reached the lowest rate in 4 years. And last month, we had the largest drop in consumer prices since the pandemic. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get along. We'll get along with China. I mean, their tariff now is at 145%. So essentially,
Donald Trump just held a fiery 100-day rally in Michigan, and it was a spectacle. From economic bragging to courtroom rants, and even a propaganda video straight from a Salvadoran prison, Trump's performance wasn't just a speech, it was a warning. But as Americans grow skeptical, is the golden age he claims real or just gold-plated nonsense? Let's break it all down.
Hello, Michigan. Thank you very much. We're taking back our country from a sick political class that got rich selling America out and bleeding America dry. We don't let that happen anymore. And we had 4 great years. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. The stock market went up 88%. We did great. And we're going to do better now, because now we learned a little bit.
That's a bold claim. While pre-COVID job numbers under Trump were strong, real GDP growth never broke 3%, something he promised every year. And better now, inflation remains stubborn and public confidence is slipping. Reuters Ipsos polling shows just 36% of Americans approve of his economic performance, his lowest rating yet.
With my China tariffs, we're ending the greatest job theft in the history of the world. China's taken more jobs from us than any country has ever taken from another country. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get along. We'll get along with China. I mean, their tariff now is at 145%. So essentially,
Trump fired up the Michigan crowd with one of his favorite applause lines, trade wars. Economists on both sides of the aisle say his tariffs didn't reverse job losses. They just started a fight. China struck back with retaliatory tariffs. US farmers lost access to key markets, and consumers, well, they paid more for just about everything from washing machines to avocados. That's not exactly how international trade diplomacy works. It's less art of the deal and more global hostage negotiation. During his first term, Trump's tariffs on over $250 billion in Chinese goods triggered immediate retaliation. American soybeans, pork, and auto parts became collateral damage, and yet Trump doubled down.
The NAFTA deal was a disaster for our country. The WTO has been a disaster for this country, for our country. In fact, the rise of China economically was, if you look at it, directly equal to the date of the opening of the World Trade Organization. It has been great for China and terrible for the United States, and great for other countries, but terrible for the United States. So we're talking about it, and two of the groups that I want to do some very fast action. We'll probably have everything completed by next week. We'll be imposing tariffs on steel imports and tariffs on aluminum imports. And you're going to see a lot of good things happen. You're going to see expansions.
Tariffs bring in billions, he said. What he didn't say? That the government gave most of it right back to farmers in bailout packages. Trump frames this as an America First push, the idea that tariffs will bring factories home and rebuild the Rust Belt. But we've been here before. Remember Carrier in Indiana? Trump boasted they'd stay.
And I said to some of the folks, I said, companies are not going to leave the United States anymore without consequences. Not going to happen. One of the things we're doing to keep them is we're going to be lowering our business tax from 35%, hopefully down to 15%, which would take us from the highest tax nation virtually in the world. This is terrible for business. To one of the lower tax, not the lowest yet, but one of the lower tax. The other thing we're doing is regulations. The regulations are, in fact, if I asked Greg and your folks, you would probably say regulations might be worse for you than even the high taxes. But also, I just want to let all of the other companies know that we're going to do great things for business. There's no reason for them to leave anymore. We're going to have a lot of phone calls made to companies when they say they're thinking about leaving this country because they're not leaving this country. They're not going to leave this country.
Turns out threatening tariffs isn't the same as fixing supply chains.
And also, we cannot allow a handful of communist radical left judges to obstruct the enforcement of our laws and assume the duties that belong solely to the President of the United States.
That's not just campaign rhetoric, that's an open attack on the independence of the judiciary. But here's the thing, the Constitution literally says that's the judiciary's job. The founders built this system to prevent a president from becoming a king. Trump wants to rewrite that. He's not just angry at court decisions, he's questioning the legitimacy of the entire system.
My administration has increased arrests of known and suspected terrorists by 655%. Is that okay? We tried to get it higher. But the courts are giving us a hard time. Can you believe? You know, I won on the basis of, I think the number one thing was on illegal immigration, the border, the people pouring across our border that are from all over the world. They're unbelievably bad, in many cases, unbelievably bad people. I think that was the number one thing. And now the courts are trying to say that, you know, that doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to be allowed to stand. Democrats have vowed mass invasion and mass migration. We are delivering mass deportation, and it's happening very fast.
He said, referring to courts ruling against him in immunity and gag order cases. Translation, if the courts rule against me, they're invalid. Trump has a long history of clashing with the judiciary, from calling judges so-called to accusing them of bias for their ethnic background.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. But Judge Engoron is a disgrace to this country, and this should not be allowed to happen. Thank you very much. Would you accept foreign money?
He said, framing indictments and investigations as political warfare. But let's be clear, most of these rulings haven't come from radical leftists. They came from Republican-appointed judges, even Trump's own nominees. His message is simple. Loyalty to Trump outweighs loyalty to law. This is more than rhetoric. It's laying the groundwork for delegitimizing any legal accountability, and the audience, they're buying it. By dismissing court rulings and framing legal challenges as conspiracies, Trump is promoting a dangerous message that justice only matters when it serves him.
And the worst of the worst are being sent to a no-nonsense prison in El Salvador. Why don't you watch this? Watch this. Take a look.
Then came a moment straight from a dystopian screenplay. Trump played a video of prisoners getting their heads shaved at a prison in El Salvador while the crowd cheered, USA!
And just this month, 2 Venezuelan members of TDA, Trendiragua, were arrested in Washington state for kidnapping a 58-year-old woman driving a power drill through her hand. to extort her bank account information, shooting her, leaving her for dead. And miraculously, she just survived, but she's not feeling so well. In January, trendy Aragua member in Chicago kidnapped 3 women, took them in an alley, lined them up, and shot them each in the head. They all died. And the FBI recently assessed that these vicious gangs have been sent by the foreign regime in Venezuela to foment violence and instability in the United States of America. Can't let that happen.
The incident was horrifying, but using it as campaign content raises ethical questions and ignores the reality that violent crime is mostly homegrown.
And that's why we got, despite the fake polls, they do these polls where they interview far more Democrats than Republicans. I saw them over the last few days, and I had them checked out. They interview far more Democrats for the polls. They interview Democrats by big numbers and then Republicans by small. They say, Trump only has a 44% approval rating. Well, it's actually not bad. But when you figure that if it were a legit poll, it would be in the 60s or 70s. These people are a bunch of crooked people.
Trump turned his attention to 2 of his favorite punching bags, polls and the Federal Reserve. The irony? That 44% number comes from Reuters Ipsos, the very outlet covering his rally, and for the record, Reuters has an A+ rating for poll transparency and methodology according to 538. Trump's 44% isn't catastrophic, but it's historically low for a president in his honeymoon period. For comparison, Obama had 65% after 100 days. Even George W. Bush had 62%. Then he shifted to monetary policy, lobbing the zinger at Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
But I know much more than he does about interest rates, believe me. Core inflation has reached the lowest rate in 4 years, and last month we had the largest drop in consumer prices since the pandemic.
Let's break that down. Jerome Powell graduated from Princeton, earned a JD from Georgetown, and has led the Fed since 2018. He's been through 2 recessions, a pandemic, and multiple inflation waves. Donald Trump? He has a bachelor's in economics from Wharton and once said we could just print the money to pay off the national debt. And here's the kicker. Trump appointed Powell in 2017. Now he's bashing his own guy for not cutting interest rates fast enough.
Let me turn to Fed independence. You've reiterated that you intend to stay in office until the end of your term, and that certainly reassured many in financial markets. What are the levers the government or the legislature have to pressure the Fed? And should one worry about threats to the Fed's independence once you're gone?
So our independence is a matter of law. Congress has, in our statute, we're not removable except for cause. We serve very long terms, seemingly endless terms. So we're protected in the law. So, Congress could change that law, but I don't think there's any danger of that. Fed independence has pretty broad support across both political parties and in both sides of the Hill. So I think that's not a problem.
But Powell isn't supposed to follow presidential orders. The Federal Reserve is independent for a reason, to keep politics out of your mortgage rates.
I guess the other question is, to follow up on Victoria's question, do you believe the president has the power to fire or demote you, and has the Fed determined the legality of a president demoting at will any of the other governors with leadership positions?
Not permitted under the law.
Not what?
Not permitted under the law.
Thank you.
Trump also accused the Fed of manipulating rates to hurt his re-election chances. That's a serious allegation with zero evidence. It's part of a broader pattern. If the facts don't fit the narrative, the facts must be fake. Whether it's polls, judges, or the central bank, Trump paints every institution as rigged, unless it agrees with him. So when Trump says, "Believe me," ask yourself, do you believe him or the people he hired and now insults?
We will make the largest ever investment in U.S. military and build the Golden Dome missile defense shield. That's going to all protect us so we live a long and beautiful life. It's going to be made in Michigan, and it's going to be made right here in the USA. And 1 hour ago, I just made a speech at Selfridge Air Force Air National Guard Base, announcing that we are saving it, keeping it open, including thousands of jobs with a brand new state-of-the-art F-15s, which are coming to Selfridge.
Standing just miles from Detroit, Trump played to the crowd with a big military flex. Governor Whitmer even called it a bipartisan win. And to be fair, it kinda is. Michigan gets the jobs and the base gets modernized. But let's pause for a second. $1 trillion in defense spending, that's nearly twice what the US spent at the height of the Iraq War, and 5 times Russia's annual military budget. Supporters call it necessary to counter China or rebuild the arsenal. Critics call it bloated, a military-industrial jackpot with no audit in sight. Either way, it's clear. Trump wants to campaign on strength, military strength, even if that means fueling the world's most expensive security budget. And Selfridge, yes, it gets 21 F-15X jets. Those are upgraded 4.5 gen fighters, not stealth like the F-35, but cheaper, faster to produce, and designed to kill missiles, not just budgets. But while Michigan celebrates the economic boost, critics ask, do we really need 21 new jets in a state that just closed schools due to budget cuts? For Trump, though, it's about the optics, the jobs, the planes, the applause. The trillion-dollar question, whether voters care more about new jets flying over their heads or the cost of groceries and housing under their feet.
We just had the biggest victory in Michigan. They said, sir, it's going to be hard. Well, we won it twice. We actually won it 3 times. You want to really know it?
Reality check. He lost Michigan in 2020 by over 154,000 votes. That's not a rounding error, that's a clear rejection. But he didn't stop there. Trump also claimed,
they cheat on elections. That's their single greatest trait. They cheat like hell. And let me tell you, they tried to cheat on this election, but we made it too big to rig. Remember? Too big to rig. They tried.
Small problem with that, he won in 2024. So did they cheat for him? This isn't just revisionist history, it's circular logic at scale. And that's the real danger. Undermining democracy after you win is like being handed the keys to the house and then setting it on fire because someone once made you knock. It's not just dishonest, it's corrosive. It turns every future loss into a conspiracy and every win into a hostage negotiation with reality. And Michigan? It's become one of Trump's favorite props in the myth-making machine. He talks about auto jobs, election lies, and rigged everything. Trump calls this the golden age. But beneath the shine, the cracks are showing. The economy's uneasy, the courts are under fire, and the facts, they're negotiable. Will America keep buying what he's selling?
We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. I love you, Michigan. I love you. Have a good time. Thank you. God bless you all.